Die Welt ist im Fußball.
The world is going football crazy as the World Cup kicks off in Brazil. Here at Credit Suisse in Zurich, we're prepared for a different kind of head-to-head match, featuring two high-caliber strategists, Ottmar Hitzfeld, coach of the Swiss national football team, and Michael Strobaek, Global Chief Investment Officer of Credit Suisse.
Investment Officer der Credit Suisse. Herr Hitzfeld.
Mr. Hitzfeld, your group rivals for the World Cup were announced quite some time ago. What's your strategy for the tournament?
Gehen Sie ins Turnier.
Ja, für mich in Brasilien ist wichtig, dass ich erstens mal meine...
Yes, what's important for me in terms of Brazil is firstly to announce my players. So that I don't have any major unrest in the run-up, I've already named my definitive 23-man squad, rather than 30 players. This is to avoid speculation appearing in the press, and to allow the team to prepare for the campaign in peace. Obviously, the strategy is also about putting our philosophy into action in Brazil. That means working as a team, because team spirit is hugely important. In terms of deciding who is in the lineup, I obviously made sure the team would fit well together. That's an essential for being able to perform well. And then, of course, I stick to my leadership principles. For example, teach respect, which is very important, credibility, solidarity toward one another. That's what every single player needs to put into action, and what I demand as the team's role model. This is to ensure we can then concentrate on what matters, on our sporting objectives, including qualifying for the round of 16.
Auf die sportlichen Ziele, das heißt auf die Qualifikation fürs Achtelfinale erreichen werden.
Herr Strobaek.
Mr. Strobaek, it could be said that you are always in the final stages of a world championship. Yet there are definitely parallels with a football coach. Where do you see them?
Das ist korrekt für uns.
That's right. For us, the game starts all over again every day. But we also need to have a strategy. Otherwise, we'll very quickly lose our game. For me and for us, it's also true that the stronger the team you've got, the greater the likelihood you have of winning. But in our case, the fact is that your opponent doesn't always behave in a rational manner. Things can change. We always need to try and keep a level head, maintain a certain discipline and a systematic approach. If we think our opponent is seeing things in slightly the wrong way, however, we respond accordingly. Because when we're winning, someone else is actually losing. And that always means keeping your eye on the ball, not the man, and understanding that sustainability and discipline are an important factor for lasting success in our game.
In unserem Spiel für den nachhaltigen Erfolg ein wichtiger Faktor ist.
Mr. Hitzfeld, you're one of the most successful coaches in the world and were also highly successful as a player. What's the secret behind your success?
Ja, ich habe eigentlich immer die gleiche Führungsphilosophie gehabt.
I've always had the same management philosophy as coach. I started out 30 years ago with Sport Club Zug in the Swiss Second League. I actually managed my team in the same way that I currently manage the Swiss national side, and used to manage Bayern Munich, where the focus is on respect. Management of my team and leadership skills was always enormously important to me, because I've got to be recognized as the leader. I have to be honest and I have to be consistent. I've got to be credible. I've also got to be loyal during times of crises, not just look for scapegoats, and always stand behind my team. Solidarity is also important to me, as is integrity. Integrity obviously means leading by example in all situations. I think that's very important when you're the leader of a team. With respect to the football itself, the technical expertise, I think it goes without saying that this is something everyone who's involved in football must be able to deal with, as is the psychological ability. It's not just about having your own team, but about having an opponent too. We need to think about what our opponent has in store, what strategy they've got, adjust to their strengths and weaknesses, and then act accordingly.
Sich darauf einstellen, auf die Stärken und Schwächen und dementsprechend dann auch handeln.
Mr. Strobaek, what's your key to success as Chief Investment Officer at Credit Suisse?
Also, ich denke, im Unterschied zu Fußball.
Unlike football and a football team, I'm a player coach because I also have to be out on the pitch every day. Together with the team, I've often got to decide, sometimes quickly, sometimes not so quickly, about the direction we want to go in and where we see the opportunities. The fact is that the business we manage frequently forces us to look at things from the opposite perspective. For example, that means you've actually got to exploit crises, not run away from them, but actually use them as a buying opportunity. Alternatively, it means you need to exit a market just as everyone else is moving in. That's what's special about the business world. What goes up must one day come back down. Getting that right is ultimately one of the real successes you can have as a chief investment officer. The second key to success, as I mentioned earlier, is the discipline to approach things in a way where you're led not by your emotions, but by rational thought and decision-making processes. A football coach can always use the post-match period as a pre-match period, time for preparation in other words. But what's it like during the game itself? How much influence do you still have? I think the coach can still have a major influence, including through substitutes. The coach can make tactical adjustments. He can ratchet up the pressure. He can play more of a counter-attacking game where the team stands back. I can still influence that from the bench. I've got influence during the half-time break. I can speak to my team again. I can motivate my team again. I can give them another confidence boost. People often say the coach has given the team a dressing down at half-time, that he's given them verbal abuse and criticized them. The opposite of what I do, really. My view is that when you're dealing with people, you need to support them, to help them, even when things are going badly. That's when the coach is needed. And I can play with one striker, with 2 or 3 strikers. In other words, I still have tactical options. That's why I can still have an influence during the game. Football is very much a team sport where the team decides whether or not success is achieved. Mr. Strobaek, you said that you see yourself more as a player coach. What's your role within the team? I always try to involve the team in decisions and ask everyone what they really think. Sometimes people within a team don't agree, and it takes an umpire to say we need to do A or B. Ultimately, I'm the one who does that, because at the end of the day, just like Mr. Hitzfeld, I'm the one who's responsible for a good or a bad result.
Am Ende des Tages trage ich auch, wie Herr Hitzfeld, die Verantwortung für ein gutes oder ein schlechtes Ergebnis.
Forecasting plays a big role in football and investment strategy alike. How far do you think Switzerland will go in the World Cup in Brazil, and who else are your favorites?
Die Favoriten?
Our objective as the Swiss national team is completely clear. It's to survive the group stages and get through to the last 16. We don't have easy opponents in the shape of Ecuador, Honduras and France, but it's doable. And if we get through to the second round, we may well surprise. After that, who knows? The sky's the limit. And who will be in the final?
Ja, also der große Favorit ist für mich Brasilien.
For me, the big favorite is Brazil. They've got a fantastic team and an experienced, outstanding coach. They also have some obvious advantages given the climate in Brazil, which can also impact on the team's performance.
Mannschaft ausschlagen können.
How do you see things, Mr. Strobaek?
Ich hoffe bestimmt und ich setze darauf
I hope and believe Switzerland will get through to the final 16. It would be a great result for this country. Unfortunately, I've got to say there's a consensus between Mr. Hitzfeld and I, because I too think Brazil will win. They'll be very hard to beat. Neither of you mentioned Spain, although they've been playing very strongly, in Europe in particular.
Ja, ich glaube, Spanien hat jetzt schon...
I think the last time Spain were at the top of their game was in Euro 2012. What's more, the team has aged slightly, and Spain in particular play a complex game. The fact is we only see the technical side of things, but the Spaniards also run more than anyone else, and that consumes energy. In Brazil, given the temperatures and the climate, that will be very difficult.
Das wird sehr schwierig.
Herr Strobaek.
Mr. Strobaek, Mr. Hitzfeld, thank you very much for this interview. We hope all you football fans out there have an entertaining, exciting World Cup and that the team you support makes it all the way. And on that note, let's go Switzerland.